Should a man who once carried an AK-47 and burned down villages be given a sewing machine, a plot of land, or even a government job? Can we truly forgive when the scars are still fresh? Well, hello and welcome to The Agenda, that program that brings you hard truths, honest debates, and solutions that matter. I am Chike Ogbogu. Today's topic is one that divides living rooms, markets, and even WhatsApp groups across the country. And that is the reintegration of terrorists into society. What are the pains and what are the gains? Government says thousands have surrendered under various amnesty and de-radicalization programs. Some are learning trades. Others are back in their communities. But many citizens are asking, at what cost? I have in the studio an economist and public affairs commentator, Ignatius Ofino. It's good to have you this morning.
Good morning, Mazi Chike Ogbogu.
Yes, we have been in a very sober state in your state for a while. The killing of a mathematics teacher who was part of those that were abducted recently in Ogbomoso, that's the Orire local government area. Yes, we've been sober. There's even a 2-year-old toddler that has been reported to be in captivity, as it were. And then these terrorists have come out to strike again. Today's topic, let's go straight. Let's start with the gains. The reintegration of terrorists into the society. Are there gains? What does Nigeria stand to gain if it were these people back to the society?
Thank you very much, Mazi. It's rather sad and disheartening that we are having a government that is apologetic, a government that sympathizes with terrorists rather than the people. Terrorists are criminals. And what does the law say about criminality? They must face the full wrath of the law. When life is being taken by another, justice calls for the victim. Now it is their justice for those who are being killed and slain by terrorists. So I don't really understand when the government is trying to say that we are trying to reintegrate repentant terrorists. I don't understand. Probably the government can be accused of culpable complicity in this regard. Because the duty of government is to protect the lives and property of citizens. Do you know that citizens have the natural rights to life, liberty, and prosperity? And they also have the natural right to happiness and security. Here, government has compromised. Terrorists who killed fellow human beings are being pardoned by state. Is there now justice for the victim? And you are telling me that that is a responsible government?
We're still coming down to justice, fairness at this time. However, we're still looking at the pains, the gains. What does Nigeria stand to gain?
Nigeria stands to gain nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Zero gain?
Zero gains. I have to be frank and sincere with you. I remember the Metesini crisis in Nigeria.
Yeah, 1987
yes.
Up to 1991.
It was as a result of what we call religious extremism, fundamentalism, religious ideology. The most difficult war to fight is what we call ideological war. Because there is one thing you must understand. Kids learn from what they see and from what they hear. Kids, they learn from what they see and from what they hear. So when we are talking about religious ideology or political ideology, it's one of those strongest things in man. So it is very difficult for you to win an ideological war. So when we are talking about terrorists now, they are religious extremists, religious fundamentalists. So you have to blame religious leader for introducing what we call wrong indoctrination into the mindset of their adherents. That is where the problem lies. You blame religious leader. Do you know that those who do not believe that God exists, they also have right to life?
The atheists.
The atheists have right to live. They are citizens. They are human beings. The Constitution must protect them from being harmed by those who practice religion. Now, a religion will tell you that if you do not accept their own prophet, you are an infidel. You are to be killed. A religion will tell you that because you fail to accept their own religious leader, you are a sinner. Those are discriminatory. We have to be frank and sincere. You blame religious leader for every form of religious extremism in any given society.
Is religion man-made?
It's a two-way answer.
Okay.
Sometimes religions become divine. Sometimes become man-made.
Is there any difference between religion and spirituality?
There is difference between religion and spirituality.
So, if it is divine, as you said, don't you think spirituality is divine?
For those who, because there is one thing you must also understand. Man is a spirit being.
Okay.
Man has body, the spirit, and the soul. So man himself is a spirit being. Do you know that man himself is looking for something to worship? So that is why it's very difficult for you to isolate religion when it comes to human affairs. But there is one thing that you must understand. Human dignity and the sanctity of human life. The first terrorist attack I had when I was young was the Lockerbie bombing over Scotland, whereby an international passenger plane was being bombed. Later, the Americans now discovered and the UK now discovered that they were from Libya. Muammar Gaddafi. That was why they declared Muammar Gaddafi as the most wanted in the world and the most unwanted in the world. That he was the one that actually sponsors those terrorists that bombed that international passenger airline that year. I think it was in 1987 or 1988 that it happened. The Lockerbie bombing over Scotland. Before we now heard about the terrorist attack in America, September 11 terrorist attack, that whereby two passenger planes were being hijacked by terrorists. And they now directed it to hit the World Trade Center. And a lot of people lost their lives. So when we are talking about religious extremism, that has been the bane of problem in the world. When religious leaders decide to introduce what we call wrong indoctrination in the mindset of their adherents, when you are telling your adherents that there is nothing wrong if you fight for a religious cause, that in the process, if you even die, that 72 virgins will be given to you. But I don't understand. Then we are having the issue of those who go by the way of suicide bombing. So the problem we are having in this part of the country is what I call religious ideology, religious extremism. That has been the bane of the problem in this country. So religious leaders have a role to play. Look at Sheikh Ahmad Gumi, sympathetic with terrorists.
Well,
and you are a religious leader.
To put the record straight, the Lockerbie incident happened on the 21st of December 1988.
88, yeah. You know, I was saying that December 88.
Yeah, 1988.
Yes.
That's December 21, 1988. And also, before then, there used to be the 1976 hostage taking at the airport in Uganda.
Yes, I remember.
Entebbe.
Entebbe.
Yeah, the Entebbe airport.
Yes.
Where the Israeli forces had to rescue those taken hostage within 90 minutes. I remember the movie 90 Minutes at Entebbe.
Yes.
Do
you know that the brother of the incumbent Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, was the one that led in that operation?
Yeah,
he lost his life.
Yes.
That is why till today, Bibi is not happy. He cried when each time he remember the death of his brother in that rescue mission. So when we are talking about extremism, it has been a problem in the world. Religious extremism. Although man cannot exist without religion.
You say so?
Yes.
Let's get back to the topic of today. Well, we're still talking reintegration. We've talked about the gains. You said there are no gains.
There are no gains.
What are the pains? Because the pains are real.
Do you know why I say there are no gains? There is the tendency for people to revenge and to avenge for their lost ones. Someone that killed another one's father, the tendency is there for the person to avenge. So there is no gain. I have to be frank and sincere. To the government say they are now repentant. But what about justice for the dead? The duty of a responsible government is to ensure that the lives of citizens are safe. Now, what does the law say? When it comes to issue of murder, somebody that killed must be tried under the law. And what does the law say? The law says the person must be executed. Now, you are now granting what we call state pardon. It's different from the issue of amnesty given to the people of the Niger Delta.
We have so much to cover this.
Because there is difference between Boko Haram granting amnesty to Boko Haram and also granting amnesty to the Niger Delta militants. The Niger Delta militants, they were bombing oil infrastructure.
Not human beings.
Not human beings.
Not
but we are
slaughtering.
talking about Boko Haram killing fellow human beings. It's different. You don't mix it up.
Okay. Some states have given repentant terrorists money. They've given them houses and even motorcycles. Is that justice?
That is not justice.
Or do you call it insult?
That is an insult on our collective side as a nation. That shows that those governments, they are also culpable. Culpable accomplices. If I was having an opportunity, I will tell my friend, President Donald Trump, freeze their account if they have any account in the United States. And if they have any account in any country in the world that happens to be an ally of the United States, that is culpable accomplices. How will you, people that are very patriotic in this country, you don't give them job. People that are patriotic in this country, you didn't give them houses. Then you are now giving terrorists houses just to appeal to them. Do you know what happened? There was one time I said that the worst thing that happened to America was President Barack Obama's presidency. The Americans reacted and they supported what I said. Do you know what happened? When President Barack Obama was in power, he gave the Iranian government under Ayatollah Khomeini $150 billion. That was the money Ayatollah Khomeini was using to sponsor what? Terrorists in the world. Hezbollah, Hamas. That is why today I like my friend, President Donald Trump. He said you don't negotiate with terrorists. You fight them and you eliminate them. They must come to your own term. You mustn't come to their own term. That was why I said President Barack Obama was the worst thing that happened to America.
Well, that is subjective. That's your own opinion.
But the Americans agree with me.
No, that's your own
especially
opinion.
the Republicans.
No, that's your opinion. No, as a Democrat, he did what he had to do as a Democrat. But the Republicans would always be on the left side, making sure that they always counter whatever the Democrats do. But let me give you a relatable example. For instance, a widow in Borno State whose husband was beheaded. And she watches her killer get a vocational job, where the killer now learns how to sew or learns a trade. But you see, she on her own now sells pure water to survive. How do you explain that to her? That the killer who beheaded her husband has been given a vocational job, a vocational training. However, she, who becomes a widow, is now selling pure water to survive. How do you explain that to her?
Is that not insultive? We don't have a responsible government in place. A government that is apologetic. A government that sympathizes with what we call terrorists. Not even sympathizing with Nigerians that are law-abiding. This woman lost her husband Not as a result of natural cause, but as a result of what? Terrorist attack. And those who killed her husband, they have been given what called state pardon. They have been empowered. And you feel that that woman will be happy with this, with the government in place. Is that justice for her husband? The need is there for this woman. If this woman has the opportunity to avenge, the woman will definitely avenge.
Well,
for the loss of her husband.
Of her husband. Well, some security experts say some repentant terrorists have gone back to the bush. Is government not thinking of an obvious recidivism? That is, committing new offenses after a crime committed in the past.
Let me give you an instance. This repentant militant, ideological war is an ideology. They are willing to die for the sake of a religious ideology.
You can take the bush out of the man.
So they can pretend.
But you can't take the man out of the bush.
Yes, they can pretend that they have repented.
Okay.
Just to get information.
Okay.
And to attack.
All right.
We have to be frank and sincere to the government. If the government says that you are not going to kill them, normally according to the law, they are supposed to be executed according to the law. But if the government said for now, we don't want to kill them, why don't sentence them to life jail imprisonment? That is what the government would have done. You are trying to reintegrate them back to the society. They become a threat. Look at in Nigeria, a brigadier general was killed. Do you know that in other countries, there would have been a military coup? Do you know that in other countries in the world, what happened? That terrorists attacked a military base and a brigadier general was killed. In some countries, there would have been a military coup and the president would have been overthrown. And that coup would have been justified. Although I am not calling for a military coup.
You're not calling for a military coup. But, let's stay with this for a moment before we go to the comments from our audience. And this issue touches the raw nerves of millions of Nigerians. On one hand, we have seen videos of young boys, some as young as 14 years old, surrendering their weapons and crying. It's been saying they were forced into terrorism. And then on the other hand, we have widows who still wake up screaming at night. How do we as a people, as a nation, look such a widow in the eye and justify spending public money to reintegrate her husband's killers?
Like what I said the other time, is so insulting. The government is to blame. Do you know that Nigeria as a country, or the Nigerian government as a country can be sanctioned for failing to protect Nigerian citizens? Do you know that Nigerians can be placed under international sanction, the government itself, for failing to protect Nigerians? What I can see here is this, aiding and abetting on the part of government. Do you know there was one time it was said that government knows the actual sponsors of terrorism in this country, and they fail to prosecute them. They fail to arrest them. Is that not an injustice? The United Arab Emirates, the other time, during the days of Buhari came, gave the government of Buhari the names, the list of those sponsoring terrorism in Nigeria. And Buhari government failed to publish them, let alone prosecute them according to the law. Is that not aiding and abetting of criminality? We have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. Don't be surprised if the United States government decide to issue international sanction against Nigerian government for failing to protect Nigerians from the siege of terrorism. If the United States government wake up today and say, Nigerian government, we want to freeze your account with us, will you say that Trump is bad? Because Trump is a human being.
And he's your friend.
And he's my friend.
Well, let's come to this. Many Nigerians feel the integration program looks like catch and settle. A boy carries a gun for 3 years, kills, rapes, loots. Then he surrenders and gets a motorcycle. He surrenders, he gets monthly stipend. He surrenders and he gets training. While the son of the man he killed is hawking on the streets. That picture is very painful. Have you tried to picture that? So painful. Ofino has been saying is an insult. Well, some people have argued that this is encouraging terrorism. That tomorrow another group will take up arms, knowing that if they fight long enough, government will eventually reintegrate them with benefits. Is that a valid fear?
That's a valid fear. 100% valid. So sad, you don't negotiate with terrorists. That is what my friend keep insisting. The other day, President Donald Trump visited China. He visited China. So when Putin became hypocritical, after my friend President Donald Trump visited China, he spent I think 2 days with him and came back to America. Then what we had was this: Putin also went to visit China again. That is hypocritical. President Donald Trump, that I know, loves Iranians, but he hates terrorism. That is what I keep saying over and over again. He doesn't hate the Iranians, but he hates terrorists. I remember when Joe Biden was in power for 4 years as American president. America classified Taliban government as terrorists, the Taliban. They were able to overthrow the Taliban. You know, the Taliban were the government ruling Afghanistan. And you know, Osama bin Laden, that was the mastermind of the September 11 attack in the United States, escaped to Afghanistan. From Afghanistan, he now moved to Pakistan. So when America now discovered that he was in Afghanistan, they launched attack against the Taliban government. That was when they were having a leader that was one-eyed cleric.
Yeah.
After attack, they took over power. Then America was there for 20 years. They installed democratic order there. When Joe Biden now came into power, he now said the time has come for American troops to be withdrawn from Afghanistan. Those troops was being withdrawn from Afghanistan, and they left American army in Afghanistan. I'm talking about Joe Biden. He asked the U.S. troops to leave Afghanistan. Then the American weapons that was in Afghanistan was left. That was why the so-called Taliban were able to hijack those weapons and fight the incumbent government, and the president ran away. Is that not culpable complicity on the part of Joe Biden, a Democrat? That is why I keep saying it, that the party that really loves America is the Republican. The Democrats don't love America. I keep saying it. Joe Biden is a Democrat. Whether you love Donald Trump or not, Donald Trump has made a history by eliminating Ayatollah Khomeini. You don't support terrorism. That is what my friend keeps saying and saying all over and all over again. You don't negotiate with them. They must come to your town. They must surrender. You don't surrender to them. But the Nigerian government, what are you doing? Nigerian government is appealing to them. You know them. If guy is not taking, they will overrun this government. Do you know what is happening? They have taken over territories in Nigeria. Now, Nigerian communities are paying taxes to them. We are having a parallel government in Nigeria. Government run by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, and government being run by terrorists.
By non-state actors.
Non-state actors.
All right.
And the president, I remember one time like that during the Chibok, you know, the issue of Chibok girl adoption was a political conspiracy.
Well, that's an assumption.
Let me give you what happened, an instance. We were told that Jonathan's government decided to align with U.S. government. Then Americans said they are coming to rescue those girls, but they are going to gas those places. Do you know at the end of the day what happened? That classified information leaked. That was why Jonathan said that Boko Haram are part of his government. They did a secret meeting. Jonathan did a secret meeting with the service chiefs. The Americans were also involved. That please find a way of rescuing these girls. And the Americans said the only way to do is we are going to gas the place so that everybody will fall asleep. So American troops can enter. They will now disarm those terrorists. Because they know that those terrorists can be easily identified. How come the information got leaked. That was why Jonathan ended by saying that his government, there are Boko Haramists as part of his government.
So the federal government is not in charge at the moment?
It's not in charge.
That's what you're saying?
Yes, they're not in charge.
The government is not in charge?
It's not in charge.
Are non-state actors the ones in charge?
The non-state actors, they are in charge.
Are the ones calling the shots?
Yes, they're the one calling the shots.
All right.
They are the one calling the shots.
Let's now bring in our audience. But I'll get to your messages after this break. Don't go away.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast and on X at Dominion Cast. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
All right, welcome back from that break. Still the agenda. Let's go straight to some of our comments here. There we have Malam Usman from Akinyele. He says, my brother was killed by Boko Haram in 2016. Today, I know one of the boys who used to come to our house begging. Now, riding a new Okada given by government. My question is, where is the justice for my late brother? Is forgiveness only for the poor victims?
Like what I keep saying, there must be justice for the dead. Those of us who believe in justice, the time has come for us to congregate together and speak truth to power. That there must be justice for victims of terrorist attack in this country. The same thing applies to accidental discharge and jungle justice in Nigeria. There must be victims for the dead. Do you know that their blood is crying for vengeance? We have shed innocent blood in this country. And this innocent blood are calling for justice. They are calling for vengeance. So who is going to execute that justice? Is the government in place? The government you and I have decided to elect. But we are having a failing government. Now, a failing government who wants us to vote for them again. The ball is now in our court. Whether to vote for them or not to vote for them. The ball is still in our court.
Well, there's this one from Mrs. Aisha from Ibadan. She says, as a mother, I support giving them skills so they stop kidnapping our children. But government should first pay the school fees of children orphaned by these terrorists. The gains are good, but the pains are heavier on women and children. They need to balance it. Well, that's Ms. Aisha's own point of view. She's speaking as a mother.
Everyone has right to his or her opinion. Yeah. But I disagree with her. Respectfully.
Okay.
There must be justice for the dead. Under criminal law, when you commit murder, you will also be executed by the law. Do you know we also have a problem in this country? We have a state government, governors who don't want to append their signature for public execution of those who committed murder. The 10 laws of Moses says, in one of the 10 laws of Moses, he said, thou shalt not kill. That's a religious law. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit murder. That anyone that killed should be killed. That's a religious law. maker. That is what God says for those of us who believe that God exists. Because it is not all of us that believe that God exists. God, who created man in his own image and likeness, says that thou shalt not kill, that if you kill, you shall be killed. Then the government is trying to alter this divine law. The government is trying to be what? Apologetic. The government is trying to sympathize with killers. And you think God will be happy with that? We have to be frank and sincere. I'm not a religionist. We have to be frank and sincere with ourselves. When we are calling for justice for the dead, those who are actual criminals and their sponsors must be prosecuted according to the law. I remember when Lawrence Anini and Monday Osubo was terrorizing the old Midwest region, Bende State. I thumb up for General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. I give him a thumb up. He took a proactive step. And at the end of the day, what happened? Do you know that one of the DSP, a police officer, was also arrested? And then he named that DSP. DSP Iyamu is also an Edo man. That he was the one supplying them out from the armory, the police armory. The man was executed by hanging. I'm just trying to tell you, there are informants within the Nigerian army. There are informants within the Nigerian police force. There are informants within the Nigerian immigration service. Most of these terrorists today, most of them are not Nigerians. Some of them are foreign terrorists. How come they now infiltrate the Nigerian society? When you ask a killer Fulani man now, you say the killer Fulani that you are talking about is not a Nigerian Fulani. He's either coming from Chad, he's either coming from Mali, he's either coming from Niger. So there's a problem on ground. The problem of what we call internal conspiracy against the Nigerian state.
So there are two things here. You know, you made mention of the Anini Osubo era.
Yes, armed robbery attack.
And then the DSP.
Yes.
Iyamu.
Yes.
Would you say that the military era enforced more stiff punishment on these terrorists than the civilian era?
Yes, the military did that. Nobody will forget the military government of Major General Muhammadu Buhari and Tunde Idiagbo. Nobody will forget. No nonsense. War against indiscipline. Nigerians will queue when you want to withdraw money from the bank. When you are in a taxi plan, you will queue. You will respect yourself. When they discover that the politicians were corrupt, do you know what the government did? They changed the face value of the Nigerian currency. So the money the civilian government stole from the people became what? Useless. The military were so proactive. No nonsense. I remember Tunde Idiagbo, those who were also involved in what we call drugs trafficking. They were executed. Armed robbers were executed publicly. There was what we call the firing squad range, shooting range in Ibadan here. People will go and look at it. You will see that they will tie armed robbers behind the bar. You now say your last prayer. If you are a Christian or a Muslim, the imam was there, the pastor was also there to pray for them for the forgiveness of sin. Firing squad. So that was all in primary school. We were afraid. Nobody dare steal. You don't steal. Even if you see money on the ground, you don't pick it up. That was a government.
But today,
the civilian government are the most corrupt government in Nigeria. More corrupt than the military government.
Okay, so the second point is this, it could still be salvaged. This issue of community policing, don't you think it will work? It could help, cleanse the system and help fish out these unscrupulous elements within the society.
There are ways you can be able to do community policing. Do you know that before Nigeria came into existence, all the major kingdoms in Nigeria or Africa, they had their own standing army. There was the Benin army. The Ohanese Ndigbo, even though it was an acephalous, they also have their own warriors. The warriors were there also in Igbo land. You don't invade their territories. The Hausa Fulanis, they also have their own standing army.
Your Empire.
Your Empire also have their own standing army. So it was very difficult for you, even though there was what we call intertribal wars. But it was very difficult for you to invade an empire because you will be resisted. And there were ways they were doing it. They were also using what we call issue of African science. Do you know that this foreign religion also did some harm to us? Most of this African science that we had in our community, most of them has been burnt. Thrown away. They say idol worship.
We're not talking religion now.
I'm not talking religion.
But we'll talk about it someday. Well, Comrade Tunde from Ibadan is saying, Oga Ofino, this program is sweet for mouth. But if my son join court tomorrow and later repent, government go give am shop. Okay, he's asking a question. If my son join court tomorrow, government go give am shop. Why will not they use the same energy, tackle Yahoo boys and ritualists, or now only gun carrying terrorists get rehabilitation? Okay.
There is one thing you must understand. In every society, there are social deviants. What does the law say? The law does not support courtesan.
Okay.
But before Nigeria came into power, there had been what we call traditional courts. It was the elderly people that were there, not young people. They worked together with the kings. You don't say it out. I'm talking about the real African culture. We don't call them cultists. Our great-grandfathers, they were into it to protect the community from external aggression.
They had the indigenous faith of Africa.
Yes, the indigenous faith of Africa.
Okay.
That was the indigenous faith of Africa. But there was one thing that I dislike, the issue of human sacrifice. Because everyone
has... do that?
Some people, they did it in Benin.
Okay.
Yes, it was done.
You saw them?
I didn't see them, but I read about it. Our great-grandfather told us what happened.
It could be fiction.
It's not fiction. It was real.
Because it takes a member to know if truly they do this.
It happened.
Okay.
Are we not having money rituals here using human beings? It's a crime against humanity.
And against the government.
And against the government, the law of the land.
Same way terrorism.
The same way terrorism and cultism. That is why you see my own governor now, Monday, Opaiwolo, is fighting against Yahoo now. Apart from fighting against cultism. Because when you are talking about Yahoo boys, Edo State is at the highest level. You know our people, they overdo things. In that side of Nigeria, you know now, we overdo things on our side, you know.
Well, now, if you say the Yahoo guys are there, the cultists are there,
yes,
would they also be reintegrated into the society?
No, there is one thing, they must face the consequence. If any Yahoo guys has killed anyone, he should be killed. If any cultist has killed anyone, he should be killed. But if at the process he didn't kill anyone, it was just animal sacrifice. He has already committed an offense. What he will do is this: let him serve a prison term. After serving a prison term, the religious leaders has a role to play, to be going to prisons, to go and be ministering to them. Okay. It is the religious leader that can really append to that fact that they have actually repented.
Okay. Well, because of our time, Dr. Fatima is saying from a mental health perspective, many victims have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Reintegrating perpetrators without proper trauma counseling for communities is dangerous. What specific framework is Nigeria using for this reintegration?
The question goes to the government. I'm not the spokesperson for the government. But a responsible government must do what this madam have just said. Scientific approach. Scientific approach. That is why, there was one time like that. America lost a lot of soldiers. Especially during the Vietnam War. You know what now happened now? So that they don't want to lose soldiers anymore. They decided to go by the way of science and technology. They now decided to develop the drone. If America want to launch attack against any country, do you know what they normally do? They normally go by the way of drone. Drone attack. Even if you destroy the drone, You have not, American life is not being lost. It is the machine that is being destroyed. So when we are talking about fighting against terrorism, fighting against injustice in this country, the government has a role to play. Prevention is greater than cure. But Nigerians today, we are being infiltrated. I remember when they were telling the people of the Southwest that the so-called bandits and terrorists, they have found an inroad into the Southwest. Most of the governors did not believe. They thought it was fiction. But what happened recently in Oyo State, I think they have come to realize that truly
it is real.
It is real. The terrorists and bandits, they are living side by side with us.
You call them bandits, but I call them terrorists. We shouldn't garnish that name.
They are terrorists.
Pastor James is saying the Bible says forgive, but it does not say forget or put the wolf back among the sheep without a leash. Government must involve traditional rulers and religious leaders in the communities before dumping anyone there. Well, Ufino has said that earlier. Let's go to Honorable Bala from Shasha. He says, I'm a politician from the north. The economic gain is clear. We have lost entire local governments to insurgency. But if we don't carry the people along, the program will create new terrorists who feel left out. Reintegration without massive development is in affected areas will fail. Let's go to Choma from Ibadan. It says, I'm a young Nigerian. Honestly, I fear that money meant for our education and jobs is being used to settle terrorists. What guarantee do we have that in 10 years, these people will not form new groups and come south? They're in the south already.
They're already in the south. I have to be frank and sincere with you. Now, this issue of kidnapping for ransom has become a lucrative job in Nigeria. Lucrative! Now, some persons are being kidnapped for ransom. And at the end of the day, what happened? They are being paid 50 million naira, 20 million naira. How much does a professor earn? Annually! But you can earn up to 100 million in Nigeria if you know how to kidnap. I'm just trying to tell you, if you are a terrorist in Nigeria, you can earn up to 100 million naira. Is that a country?
Do you sign their check?
No, I'm not. I'm just trying to tell you. It's so pathetic. It's pathetic. A failure on the part of the government. A government that has failed the people. What a government and what a country. We have to be honest to ourselves. A government that cannot protect the life of the citizen. Do you know like America? American government has that constitutional responsibility to protect the lives of every American. Whether you are living in America or you are living outside America, that is why every countries of the world, there is what we call the American intels. In the airspace, you find the American intels. Along the oceans, there are American intels. In the Sahara, American intels. In all countries of the world, there are American intels gathering information for the American government.
Ignatius Ufino, we are about calling it a day on the program this morning, but before then, in 30 seconds, can you set an agenda based on reintegration? The
agenda for today is this. There must be justice for victims of terrorism in this country.
That's very brief and sharp.
There must be justice for victims of terrorism in this country.
Well, thank you, Ignatius Ufino.
Thank you for having me.
Ignatius Ufino is an economist and a public affairs commentator. Well, hello there, audience. This is the agenda. We do not pretend the answers are easy. Reintegration has gains, which include peace, productivity, reduced spending on bullets. But the pains, such as betrayal, trauma, injustice, are real and cannot be wished or washed away. The middle ground must be no blanket forgiveness without justice, no integration, no reintegration without rigorous process, no reintegration without victim compensation, and no integration without community consent. We must choose humanity without committing suicide as a nation. I am Chike Obogo. Bye for now.